They thought you'd never catch on, and for a while they almost succeeded. The layers of silence, the rehearsed gestures, the repeated phrases, as if they were immutable truths. Everything seemed so natural, so routine, that it would be easy to believe that nothing was hidden. But inside you, something always pulsed, a subtle restlessness like a whisper that wouldn't be silenced. Have you felt that weight, haven't you? The weight of being surrounded by things that seem right but carry a shadow that no one dares to name. It's almost imperceptible at first, like a cold breeze sneaking in through a crack, which you later realize had been there all along. And when you finally become aware, it's as if the whole world changes color. What once seemed normal now feels strange. What seemed innocent now feels calculated. His gaze, his silence, the way he avoids, everything reveals itself so clearly that you wonder, how didn't I see it before? It's in that moment you understand. They thought you would remain trapped in the same circle, believing the same excuses, living under the same script written by someone else's hand. They trusted that you wouldn't wake up. But you did wake up. There's something powerful about realizing it too late, because once you see, there's no going back. Innocence shatters, but in its place, a perception is born that no one can steal. You begin to see what was once invisible, and that changes everything. From that point on, every gesture of his carries a different weight. The laughter seems rehearsed, the kindness sounds artificial, the words echo like something hollow. It's no longer just about him, it's about the system that shaped him, the forces that encouraged him to act this way, the complicity of silence that surrounded him. Have you ever experienced something like this? That moment when the entire puzzle finally falls into place, and the picture that emerges is nothing like what you expected. If it has happened to you, comment, "I needed to hear this." What's frightening is not just the lie. What's terrifying is realizing how much you trusted it, how much you believed the versions he presented, how much you adjusted your own feelings to fit into his narrative. That hurts more than the hidden truth. But there's strength in this as well. Because if they thought you would never notice, the very fact that you did notice becomes the turning point. It's the moment when you're no longer manipulated, you're no longer led, you're no longer blind, and maybe you still struggle with it. Perhaps there's a part of you that wants to close your eyes again, that wants to go back to before, to that state when there weren't so many questions. But you already know. You can't go back to being blind after you've seen. The revelation is a wound that opens, but it's also a door that swings wide open. Now you have to deal with the silence that follows. The heavy, almost suffocating silence that fills the space when the mask falls, because he's not going to admit it. He's not going to stand up and say, "Yes, I hid this, I lied, I manipulated." He'll try to turn it around. He'll try to make you doubt yourself. He'll try to say that your perception is wrong, but you already noticed, and that's enough. Do you know why it's enough? Because true perception is something that cannot be undone. Even if they try to confuse you, even if they attempt to bury everything under excuses, you've already seen. And what you see cannot be invisible again. This is where the most painful and, at the same time, most liberating process begins, accepting that you will never be the same again. You start to look back. Every detail that seems small now takes on new significance. His pauses, his silences, the words that didn't fit. It's as if the entire past is being rewritten before you. What was merely a memory becomes evidence. What seemed like coincidence reveals itself as a pattern. And then you understand it was never carelessness. It was never innocence. There was always an intention, even if disguised as distraction. There was always a choice, even if cloaked in gestures of kindness. He knew exactly what he was doing and what he was not doing. This realization cuts like a blade, because it's not just about a single mistake. It's an entire fabric of omissions, manipulations, and secrets. You realize that time wasn't just passing. It was being used against you. Every day, every conversation, every calculated silence. It's hard to breathe in that moment, as if the air had weight, as if the whole world was compressing your chest. But at the same time, something loosens inside you, as if the rope that held you had snapped. And then comes the inevitable question, what to do with this? Because awareness changes everything, but it doesn't solve everything. The wound still bleeds, the mind still screams, the heart still trembles. You've realized it, but now you need to choose. Choose whether to confront. Choose whether to walk away. Choose whether to remain silent. Choose whether to use this awareness as a weapon or as a shield. None of this is easy, Because you know, any step from here on out will have consequences. There is no neutrality after seeing. Silence now is also a decision. And maybe you've already realized that he counts on this, on your doubt, on your fear, on your hesitation. He believes that even when you see, you will choose to stay silent. And this is where the greatest revelation lies. They never feared being discovered. They fear that you will speak. This is the breaking point. You start to notice how everything revolves around a silent pact. No one speaks, but everyone knows. No one admits it, but everyone feels it. And this collective silence creates the illusion that nothing exists. But it does. It's there, pulsating, perceptible to those who dare to truly look. And you dared. The most painful realization is that this game isn't just his, it's many people's. It's a pattern that repeats itself in different faces, in different situations, in different stories. And that's what makes it hurt so much, because you realize that you're not an isolated case, but part of a human pattern. Maybe that's why you feel this inner calling. As if the awakening is not just about your own story, but something larger. As if by recognizing his deception, you're also seeing the deceptions of the world. This awareness is not light. It's heavy, but it's also transformative. You start to question yourself. How many other things are in front of me that I haven't noticed yet? How many other gestures, how many other words, how many other silences carry hidden meanings? This question can be suffocating, but it's also liberating, because it's from this question that true vigilance is born. A gaze that doesn't accept the obvious, an ear that isn't satisfied with the surface, a heart that refuses to be numbed, and from here, everything changes. You begin to walk differently, not because you want to, but because you can no longer walk the same way. Awareness alters your body, changes your breathing, shifts the rhythm of your mind. You become someone else. He notices this and fears it, because his strength has always relied on your blindness. Now, by becoming aware, you disarm him without saying a word. Your mere consciousness is an act of rebellion. Your presence already reveals what he tried to conceal. It's at this point that he begins to change his strategy. Silence is no longer sufficient. Now, he needs to distort. He needs to invert. He needs to make you doubt what you've perceived. Have you noticed this? When someone realizes you've seen, they no longer try to hide. They try to confuse you. They try to make you doubt yourself. They attempt to make it seem like your perception is exaggerated, that your memory is faulty, that your sensitivity is weakness. But you know it's not. You feel the solidity of what you saw. You know it's not a figment of your imagination, and this becomes your strength. In that moment, a voice is born within you that didn't exist before. A voice that doesn't need to shout, because it already carries the firmness of truth. A voice that doesn't fade away, because it doesn't depend on anyone's approval. This voice says, you perceived it, and perceiving is enough. It may be that you still don't know what to do. It may be that you don't yet have the courage to take all the steps, but it doesn't matter, because perception has already changed the course of your destiny. There's no going back. The path now is one of maturing that vision, a painful maturation, but also a luminous one, as if every tear were water that washes the eyes, making the vision even clearer. You start to see what others don't see. Not because you are better, but because you paid the price of looking. And this gives you a responsibility. It's not just about you, it's about everyone who is still blind. Have you felt the weight of that responsibility? Knowing what others don't know, seeing what others don't see, carrying within you a piece of truth that no one else recognizes. It's lonely, but it's also sacred. And it's here that something greater begins to form. Because what was once just pain starts to transform into a mission. What was once merely revelation starts to become a calling. And you feel, this story doesn't end with them. This perception goes beyond. Have you been through this kind of rupture, when the pain of realization transforms into the strength to move forward? If this resonates with you, write yes down below. His silence now is no longer simply the absence of words. It's a strategy, an invisible battlefield where every gesture, every look, every breath carries hidden intentions, and you feel it, as if you're standing before a shadow that insists on moving even when everything else seems still. You're no longer naive. You've realized that nothing is random, that every detail carries weight, every pause has a reason, and every incomplete answer holds a hidden meaning. And the more you look, the clearer it becomes. Everything he tried to hide is, in fact, exposed. It just needed awake eyes to see. And here's the irony. He believed that time would be enough to erase any trace. He thought that if you remained immersed in the flow of routines, there would never be room for questioning. But time did the opposite. Time matured your perception. Time didn't erase, it revealed. This is the moment when you understand the depth of the plot. It wasn't just about small lies. It was about a whole scheme of manipulation. A carefully constructed theater, where roles were defined and the script had to be followed without deviation. But you deviated. And that deviation, which seemed small, shattered the entire narrative. Because it only takes one different look for the whole theater to crumble. The curtain falls, the lines lose their impact, and the stage reveals itself to be empty. You feel this in your body. A mix of pain and liberation, as if every cell in you carries the mark of having seen beyond the mask. The pain because you realized you trusted in something false. The liberation because you are no longer his prisoner. And then comes the most frightening part, realizing that you weren't the only one deceived, that there are others still trapped in this theater. Others who continue to applaud, believing, repeating lines that were delivered as absolute truths. This shock is profound, because you understand that you can't simply go back to occupying your previous place. You can't pretend you didn't see anymore. And at the same time, it's unbearable to watch others living under the illusion that you've already moved on. This is where the dilemma arises. Do you speak up or stay silent? Do you expose or withdraw? Do you confront or observe? Any choice has consequences, but none of them erase the fact that you've already realized. He, on the other hand, begins to feel threatened. Not because you shouted, not because you revealed anything, but because your mere awareness is enough to destabilize his structure. The power he had over you was sustained by your ignorance, and now he finds himself facing someone who sees. This terrifies him. That's why he moves with more aggression. He starts using the weapons of fear. He tries to place the blame on you. He tries to reverse the narrative, making it seem like the error is yours. He tries to reduce your perception to delusion, your clarity to exaggeration. But none of that works anymore, because inside you, the voice is clear. It says, I saw, I know. I don't need external confirmation to validate what my eyes, my heart, and my conscience have already perceived. This is the point at which you discover a new form of strength. It's not the strength of external struggle, but the strength of internal conviction, a silent force but unshakable. And perhaps this is exactly what disturbs him the most. He can no longer control you. He can no longer dictate what you should feel, think, or believe. And this inner freedom is something he will never be able to touch. It's at this moment that you discover the difference between being trapped and being free. The prison wasn't made of visible chains, but of illusions. Freedom is not the absence of problems, but the presence of clarity. You realize that you've never been so vulnerable, and at the same time so protected. Vulnerable because the pain of revelation is real. Protected because no one can deceive your perception anymore. This is the transformation that changes your life. It's not just about him. It's about how you begin to see everything around you, how you start to question not just what he says, but what the whole world tries to impose. And here something even deeper happens. You realize that just as he wore masks, you have too. That at some point, whether consciously or not, you also hid parts of yourself to fit into narratives that weren't yours. This revelation hurts even more, because it's no longer just about his mistake. It's about your own complicity with the illusions of the world. But don't blame yourself. Awareness doesn't come to condemn, but to liberate. Seeing your own shadow is not a sign of weakness, but of courage. Because few dare to look at themselves with such clarity. This marks the beginning of a deeper process. You start to recognize patterns within yourself. The way you accepted crumbs of attention. The way you silenced your own truths to maintain a false peace. The way you numbed yourself to avoid feeling the pain of deception. And little by little, you begin to break free from all of this. Each day your awareness deepens. You see not only what is outside, but also what is within. And this dual perspective is what creates a true transformation. Have you ever felt this? That feeling that at the same time you discover the truth about another, you also uncover hidden truths about yourself. If so, write down below. I've felt this. It's painful, but it's also powerful, because no one can deceive someone who has learned not to deceive themselves. And this is how you start to move in a new direction, no longer guided by someone else's masks, no longer led by the illusions you accepted, but guided by an awareness that grows, that expands, that becomes clearer and clearer. What seemed like a fall transforms into an ascent. What felt like an end becomes a beginning, and you realize nothing was in vain. Every mistake, every silence, every lie served as a mirror that now reflects not only his face, but your own truth. And deep down you understand that this awakening cannot be wasted. It's like a flame. If you don't protect it, it goes out. But if you feed it, it brightens paths you never imagined you would walk. This conversation doesn't end here. If this resonated with you, the next video will touch you even more. Click now and continue with me on this journey of perception and transformation.